In these videos, I continue to point out that we were created to be made in the image of Elohim. I have spoken that the 144,000 who have become his first fruits grew to the point of understanding this most basic reason for our existence. Others might have understood this in part at some point, but their choices proved that they rejected it. Whereas those who became the saints embraced his will and became moldable clay to the master potter's hands. The reason that most have not understood this is because they wanted to make themselves into who they wanted to become. They wanted to choose right from wrong for themselves. And just spoke yesterday how this is sin of Adam and Eve. The original sin. Most have went their own way and made him into who they wanted him to be and worshipped false images of him and his son. They reversed the roles and rebelled to why they were created. I have spoken this in nearly every one of the 170 plus videos that are loaded onto this site to date. But is it being absorbed into your innermost thoughts? Or are you going about your pursuit of truth on your own terms still? I will start today by extinguishing the scoffers who want to hold on to man's translations of his word. His word says in Genesis 1:26 and 27, and Elohim said, I will make man in my image after my likeness, and I will let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowls of the air, and over the cattle, and over all of the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So Elohim created man to be in his image. In the image of Elohim he created him to be. Male and female he created them to be. The King James and other translations translated verse 26 to say, we will make man in our image. But this is just a deliberate mistranslation to uphold their false Trinity doctrine. And they translate verse 27 to read that Elohim created man in his image already, and this is not true. He created us to be molded by him and to become made in his image. This is why he gave his life. He is spirit, and he created us to be flesh. We are created to one day become spirit and be given eternal life in his family if we will yield to his creating process. But until then, we are flesh. We have a spirit essence that he gave us, that he wants to mold us in his image. It is like programming a computer, but he must be the programmer if our spirit is to be made in his image. If we choose our own programming or choose Satan's programming, we simply live to one day die forever. Choosing to live forever is choosing his will to be done in our lives, not our own will. It is crazy to think that any of us are already made in the image of our Creator or in the image of his character. I have given the examples in the past of, is a murderer or a rapist already made in his image? Or how about a child molester? Or how about liars and adulterers? Are they already made to be in his image? Genesis 1 verse 1 says that Elohim created the heavens and the earth. It is the same Hebrew word for created that is used in verse 27 where it says that he created man in his image. The problem is it is used with completely different grammatical notations in the Hebrew language in these two different verses. In verse 1 it is used with a quality perfect notation, and in verse 27 it is used with two different grammatical notations, a quality imperfect notation and a wa consecutive notation. It is clear, no matter what you make of the different notations, that these two uses of the word created are totally different because they have totally different notations associated with them. In verse 27, it is not speaking of a past tense situation as it is after he made the heavens and the earth in verse 1. Today I would like to challenge each of you to answer to yourselves why you are here in the flesh if you are already created in his image. Are we just here to learn to be nice to one another and to love one another? Wouldn't we already do this if we were already made in his image? Pretty simple, folks. Loving one another and being nice to one another are byproducts of being made in his image anyway, or in his character. But there is much more to why we're here than this. He created evil and put it in our midst so that we could learn to hate it because it destroys that which is of his character. It destroys pure love and true love. He wants us to learn this so that his righteousness becomes our programming, and his righteousness becomes our righteousness. Instead, man has replaced his righteousness with a righteousness of their own that is based on the tolerance of evil. Man refuses to have forgiveness in their hearts for the things that they are commanded to forgive, but they forgive the things that they are supposed to purge out from their midst. It is all backwards. This is what was prophesied against in Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. Woe to them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. These two verses expose much of that is true in the hearts of men today. It has become all about man's righteousness, replacing the righteousness of their Creator. Their false religions have replaced the light and are full of darkness. They are bitter with one another for all sorts of things that should be forgiven of one another. They are bitter with one another for having their toes stepped on or their feelings hurt. Yet they deem themselves righteous because they do not condemn adultery or they turn their cheek to countless other abominations. They deem themselves wise in their self-righteousness and look down on the righteousness of their Creator. Everything is upside down. They raise their children apart from the path that He gave them to teach them the way to eternal life. Thus they send them on their way to the lake of fire, and they pat themselves on the back and think that they have raised them well. They teach them all about a make-believe Messiah, come from the lies of Saul of Tarsus. They call their religion good, and they call His righteousness evil. Yet it is His righteousness that would have taught them what evil is. And commanded in Amos 5:15, hate the evil and love the good, and establish judgment in the gate. And it may be that Yahweh Elohim of hosts will favor the remnant of Joseph. And the judgment he's talking about there is righteous judgment, His judgment. Yeshua said, I judge no man, yet my judgment is true. And two different words there in the Greek language are used when this is recorded. He judges no man from man's judgment, but his judgment, the righteous judgment of mitzvah, is from His Creator. Man has chosen to turn the other cheek to evil and to condemn what is good. The path that our Creator gave us to mold us in His image is good. It is His Torah that teaches us that what is good and what is evil. Most call His Torah evil, or at least they think that it is in their minds. They learn this from the abomination of desolation, Saul of Tarsus, whom they follow. They reject that which is pure. They reject the image of the Most High, the image of the self-existing Creator of all things, and have made other images of Him to worship. Another image of His Son as well. And they have chosen to discern what is good and what is evil according to their own righteousness and not according to His. The very type of judgment that Yeshua condemned. This is why His wrath will soon overtake you. But His wrath is also being sent to call a people out of the lies to return to Him. It is sad that it will take what is coming just to get a small flock of you stiff-necked people to listen to Him. But it is obvious that it will take much calamity for most of you because you love the comfort of your cesspool that you're swimming in. The bottom line is you have rejected His will. It is His will that you would choose to allow Him to mold and fashion you in His image. People want to wink their eye at evil and say, be blessed to one another, or say, may He bless you and keep you to one another. I have been telling people that the only prayer that you should have for one another is that they might be found doing that which would place them in their Creator's will or in His favor. This means that we might very well be praying for trials to come their way. If they are found in His will or in His favor, they will automatically be blessed by Him anyway. People want to pray for the result of being blessed for themselves and for one another while ignoring that which would cause them to be blessed by Him. I am praying for my Father to do whatever He has to in order to cause His will to be done on this planet as it is done in the heavens. This means that I am praying for this planet to be brought low, to be brought humble. This is what all of the saints have prayed for. The good news is we do not have much longer to wait for this to happen. The bad news for most of you is you're not going to get risked away in some rapture that many of you have put your hopes in. I've spoken that The 150 days of torments could begin as early as November 9th of this year. Actually, it could begin before this, but this date lines up with 150 days later, landing on the 15th day of the first month of next year for a second Exodus. For those of you who don't know, the first Exodus was on the night of the 15th day of the first month as well, just about 3,324 years ago now. And it just so happens that November 9th is exactly 40 days after the day of the memorial trumpets this year that we are commanded to observe. Most of you care less about these appointed times as well. Wonder why his wrath is coming. You've rejected all of his instructions. A lot of you, the rest of you, even want to use those calling themselves Jewish today and their calendar to determine when these feasts are. That's another abomination, another subject. I have spoken in other videos how my Father uses the number 40 to pronounce his judgment and set his stamp on it. So November 9th is certainly a possibility. But in spite of the fact that the 150 days is about here one way or another, most of you will continue to bathe in this will with no fear of not being found in your Creator's will anyway. You will hold fast to the comfort of living the lives that you have chosen to put your faith in. I am telling you in the authority of Yahweh Elohim that you were created to be made in his image. He allowed man to go their own way for this phase of his creation, but this phase is finished. His temple is built. Now he is calling a people to turn from their ways, to choose that which those who became his temple chose. They chose his will. They not only chose it, they chose to desire it with all of their being. Each of you will need to make the same choice in order to be delivered through the coming time of calamity. His will is to mold you in his image. It is the entire reason that he made us. He has to be the one who programs your spirit if he is going to give you eternal life in his family. He's not going to let that which embraces evil in his family, that's for sure. And he sent forth an instruction manual to accomplish the programming of his righteousness in us. I suggest that you delete all of the false programming that you have embraced up until now and let him upload his programming in you. This testing and proving phase that we call life is not a game, and your will does not matter until it agrees with his will. His will leads to an eternal utopia in his family with no evil. Only love will remain. Where's the downside in this? It sounds like a pretty good offer to me. Lay siege to it and let him be your programmer.